Buckle up because we're about to take a deep dive into one of America's most chilling unsolved cases,
Yeah.
the Oakland County Child Killer.
Wow.
This one's going to stay with you. Scrab told me, that's for sure. Based on J. Reuben Appelman's book, The Kill Jar, we're going to explore the case, the context, and the author's own personal journey as he gets obsessed with finding answers.
Oh, absolutely. And when we talk about this case, we have to consider the time. We're talking 1970s suburban Detroit. Like you said, this picture of safety, kids playing outside, that classic image of American suburbia. And then it's just shattered
God.
by these horrific crimes. 4 children abducted and murdered, and to this day, the killer's never been caught.
Never caught. And it wasn't just, the fact that these kids were murdered.
Right.
It's the way the killer went about it.
It's the details. It's those details that get you.
Yeah.
The meticulous way the bodies were cleaned, dressed, posed in public places. It's like
Like a message.
a message, right? Or this desire to be found. What does that tell us about the psychology of this individual? What kind of person does that?
Yeah. And the thing that I found really interesting is that Appelman, the author, he was a kid himself back then.
In Detroit, right, at the time of the murders. So he's not just researching this, he's reliving a part of his childhood, a part marked by fear.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's
Get into it.
let's get into the victims.
Yeah.
So between 76 and 77, 4 kids vanish, right? Mark Stebbins, Jill Robinson, Christine Miklich, and Timothy King. And each disappearance just like rocks the community, and then they find the bodies.
And that's where it gets really chilling. Imagine you're a police officer, right? You get the call, a body's been found, you go there, and there it is, a child. But it's not just that they're dead, they're posed, dressed, clean, like someone took the time to stage this.
Yeah. And that became like a calling card.
A signature, like
Yeah.
they wanted everyone to know this was their work. That just amps up the fear, the mystery, everything.
Yeah, yeah. And, the investigation was just riddled with problems from the get-go.
Right.
Appelman, he doesn't hold back. He goes through the police files, the interviews, and uncovers some pretty shocking stuff, like missed opportunities, mishandled evidence, and even hints of corruption within the force itself.
And the timing of all this couldn't be worse, right? Public trust in the police, the government, all of it's already shaky in the 70s. These revelations just pour gasoline on that fire.
Yep.
Conspiracy theories start flying. People are wondering, is someone being protected here? Is that why this killer hasn't been caught? Those questions haven't really gone away, have they?
No, they haven't. And then Appelman does something really interesting. He starts to connect, or at least he tries to connect, the murders to the dark underbelly of Detroit at the time, the child pornography rings, the abuse networks. That gets really heavy.
Yeah, it does. And it's important to be careful here, right? What Appelman presents are allegations. He's not claiming he has definitive proof, but he lays out a lot of information about these rings, their methods, how they operated. It paints a disturbing picture.
It does. And it makes you wonder, was the Oakland County Child Killer a lone wolf or part of something much bigger and much more organized?
Right. And it's that question that lingers. Even if we never know for sure, the possibility is terrifying. It makes you realize just how deep this darkness can go.
Yeah, yeah. And, the title of the book, The Kill Jar, it's such a striking image.
Absolutely.
What do you make of it? What's Appelman trying to say with that title?
Well, on a literal level, you have these insects, right? They're trapped, their lives stolen, preserved in this jar. It's cold, it's calculated, just like the killer's actions.
Right.
But I think Appelman is going beyond that. He's saying that society itself, through its apathy, its indifference, created a kind of kill jar for these children.
Oh, wow.
He points to the institutional failures, the ways we ignore or dismiss the suffering of kids, especially those who are already marginalized or vulnerable.
That's powerful. And as Appelman is, digging into all of this, going deeper and deeper into the case, you really see how it affects him personally, his mental health, his relationships.
Oh, absolutely. It consumes him. You can feel the weight of this case on him. He's not just researching it, he's living it. It makes you wonder about the toll that seeking justice can take on a person, the sacrifices involved.
Yeah. It reminds me, that for some people, the pursuit of the truth becomes a way to deal with their own demons. Maybe a way to find closure, or at least to make some sense of the chaos.
Maybe. It's a powerful idea, and it makes you think about what motivates people to dedicate years, sometimes decades of their lives to cold cases. What drives them? What keeps them going when the answers seem so elusive?
It's a good question.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, the kill jar doesn't provide all the answers. It doesn't solve the case. The Oakland County Child Killer is still out there, or at least their ghost is. But the book does leave us with a lot to think about, a lot to grapple with.
Right. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge the darkness that exists in our world and within ourselves. It reminds us that even in places we consider safe, evil can lurk. And it challenges us to examine our own complacency, our own willingness to look away from things that make us uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the pursuit of justice, the search for truth, it's a long and winding road. And sometimes, even when we reach the end, we're left with more questions than
I
answers.
think that's what makes this case and this book so compelling. It's not just about catching a killer. It's about understanding the human condition, the darkness and the light. It's about confronting our fears and seeking answers even when they're painful.
The Kill Jar is a tough read, but it's a powerful one, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's interested in true crime, in the complexities of the human psyche, and in the enduring mysteries that continue to haunt us.
I second that.
It's a story that will stay with you long after you finish the last page.
It definitely will.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay safe.